So hello, and welcome to Making the Blackboard Gradebook Work for You, the second edition. I was told that someone forgot to press record on the session I did earlier today, so I'm trying to get it done again now, and hopefully it's even better than it was this afternoon. So before we get started, a couple of notes. First of all, I want to thank whoever it was who taught me about weighted grades. They were even possible in Blackboard. I believe it was someone at Bluegrass several years ago, and it really started me on the path of seeing Blackboard as something more than just a big glorified adding machine for total points. Second, I want to note that I'm using PowerPoint here. I'm trying to be very disciplined about going back and forth here, mostly so that people can fast forward through this recording later and find just the part that they need. So I'm going to try to go back and forth and leave it up for a little bit and talk about some things. And finally, I can't take any questions, obviously, in this session, but if you would like to email me at sharon.down@kctcs.edu, I would love to hear any questions that you have about this presentation or about anything else you're trying to do in Blackboard. So with that said, here was our agenda. I basically divided this presentation into three sort of parts. One of them is just basic gradebook organization, probably a lot of things that most of you already know how to do, but I may have a couple of new things that you hadn't seen before. And then something advanced that I found really helpful for me in organizing the gradebook and being able to set some kind of custom views for things. And that has to do with the grading periods and a little bit with categories as well. And then finally, I want to switch over to things that are more student-centered, like some custom displays that I have for things like snapshot columns and grading schemas, and changing what the external total reads in the Blackboard dashboard that students see. And I probably will not talk about this too much now. I certainly won't show it, but about how to do weighted grades, since that was the thing that kind of put me on this whole path. So first of all, the function I'm going to cover here are manage column organization in the full gradebook, manage grading periods, manage categories, which is really very like manage grading periods, set grade center due dates, which is a course tools function, another thing in the gradebook itself, which is manage grading schemas, and finally creating total or weighted or average columns and managing the external total display. So first of all, let's look at some basic gradebook manipulation. To get to this, you need to go to your full grade center, go to manage, and go to column organization. What I'm going to show you in here is a couple of ways to, first of all, move the total and the weighted total up to the top so that you can see it at the top of your gradebook. Delete or hide useless columns, do some things for FERPA compliance here, and also show you how to use the frozen bar to control what information you can see in your gradebook as you're scrolling through it and recording grades. And then also how to drag and drop some assignments into a desired order. But as you see, this is a pain. So with that said, let me go over here to this gradebook. This is a gradebook that I have that's pretty much what I would have if I copied from an old course to a new course. We always have these sort of things here at the top, like the last name and first name, and all of these other things. It's pretty much in the order that it would be in. So you can see it here. And so what I'm going to do first of all is I would love to be able to hide these names because of FERPA. So I try to do that, and you can see it won't let me. However, if you move something else to the top of the gradebook, like say availability, you can hide the names then. Hide selected columns. There you go. And select it. Here you go. And now those are hidden. As far as other useless things I get rid of, username and student ID have no place in my world. Hide those. I keep last access because that lets me know what students are doing or not doing. And then for the rest, I scroll through here till I find the weighted total and the external grade, and it looks like I copied over a total points thing. I'm going to move all of these. To move these to the top of the gradebook, I'm going to show them in all grade center views. And now they've moved from there. If I scroll back up to the top, they're up here. The other thing that I generally do is I move my my grades up above this frozen bar so I can see what average students have as I'm going through. I'll move them all up here for right now. And I'll submit. And now when I do this, this is what you see in the gradebook, the availability and the last access, and then the points. So that's the first thing. And then, of course, if I go back to manage column organization, if I want to move things around, or if I add new assignments now and I want them to be in a particular order in the gradebook, I basically have to drag and drop. This isn't so terrible in this one, although there's a lot of stuff in here. But if I go to the online course that I developed several years ago with Gateway, you can see that if I'm manually moving stuff into the different modules and trying to get to the different order, that this is a nightmare. So this is what made me want to do something that looks more like this. If I go in here, I've got an extra credit grading period, I have a module 1 grading period, and so on. If I want to move my extra credit to the bottom of the gradebook, I can actually turn it where it's small first and then just drag it all the way down and make it be where I want it to be. And that's a whole lot easier than manually moving all of those assignments at once. So that's, now that I've shown you why that's kind of cool, let me show you how to do it. Let me go back here to this. And so we're in advanced gradebook manipulation now. And what I want to show you here is how to manage grading periods and due dates and group the assignments as I just showed you in the gradebook. Set the due dates in the course in bulk so that you don't have to set every single due date manually. And then look a little bit at managing categories and managing column organization to look at different things. For the grading periods, basically I just showed you why do it. There are 2 steps for this. First of all, you have to create the grading period names, and then you have to associate those with columns in the gradebook. And it's really easy to do this. What I'd say first of all about grading periods is that I assumed that it had to do with just time, and it can. But you can also think of grading periods as something that's like a folder that you would put something in, or a unit, or maybe you want to group all of the major writing assignments in the course in one place. You can create a grading period that you can put all of those in, and then you can see them next to each other in your gradebook as you're scrolling through it. And that might be something you might want to do. So that's why I do that. And so here in a minute, I'm going to first of all create grading periods by going to the Full Grade Center, going to Manage, and going to Grading Period, and then create the grading period, name it, and I'll show you some of the options that are in there. I'm just going to create a few in a course and then submit it. So let me escape out of this right now and go back over here to this course, and I'll submit this first. And then I want to go to Manage Grading Periods in the Full Gradebook. And as you see, there are no grading periods at the moment, so I'm going to create a grading period. And I'm just going to name it whatever I want. I'll call this one EC for extra credit. And you can see that you have some things you can associate it with dates if you want to, but as I said, you can think of it as a folder. You don't have to. So you can just submit it when you get done. And then maybe create a second one. I'll call this one Module 1 and submit that. And I'll create a couple more here. And I'll call this one Module 2, and that should be enough. Okay, and then when I'm done, I just go down to the bottom here and go OK. And now they're waiting for me for the second half of what I need to do here. So for the second half of what I need to do here, I now need to go and organize my assignments using these grading periods I've just created. So for this, I'm going to go to Full Grade Center, Manage, and then go to Column Organization. And then I'm going to use some checkboxes I can actually move multiple assignments into these folders at once. I don't have to move them one by one. And then I can use this movement. The button for this is actually at the top or the bottom of the gradebook. So depending on which is closer, that's where you scroll to. And then you can drag and drop these periods to reorder the gradebook, as you just saw me do a little bit ago. And then you just submit it when you're finished. So let's go over here, and I'll actually do this in this gradebook. So I'm going to go to Manage, Column Organization. You see I have some blank kind of folders sitting here, and then I've got a bunch of stuff not in a grading period. I'm just going to grab a few of them and put them into a grading period. I'll grab all of these, and I will put those, I'll scroll back up to the top here since it's closer, change grading period to Module 1. And now you see that they're in there. And then I can grab a few more and put those in. If I scroll to the bottom, I can change it here too. I'll put those in extra credit. And so now I have some in here. Maybe I want to move this above that for whatever reason. When I get it the way I want it, remember to submit it. And now the assignments are in the order that I put them in the gradebook that you just saw. So that's how all that works. Now, once I've got these set like this, I can actually set these as a bulk, or I can set the Grade Center due dates as a unit by the Grade Center, by the grading period. So the way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to go to Course Tools and go to Set Grade Center Due Dates. And then you'll see that there's a button that you can use that can switch it from setting them individually to setting them as by grading period. And you can split the whole page when you're finished. And then you're going to go back to Manage Column Organization to check the dates and make sure they're correct. You can't fix it there, but at least you can see the errors there really easily. And then you can come back here to the bulk Grade Center Due Dates to readjust that. So let's go and actually do this. And I'm going to do this in this one right here. So I'm going to go to Course Tools. And I'm going to scroll down to Set Grade Center Due Dates. And you can see that I can set due dates for these individually. And some of them apparently were set at some point. But what I want to do is do it by grading period. So I'm going to edit due dates by grading period by clicking on this. And now what I have instead, when it switches over, as you can see, I have the grading periods that I created. I can now set all of the things that are in those folders to one date. And so I'll say make the extra credit be due in May sometime. And I'll make Module 1 be due next week. I don't think I set anything into Module 2, so I'll just leave that alone. And then you just click Submit. What I would do before you ever leave this page, especially if like you have a lot of modules or a lot of folders, say for an online class, is double check this and triple check it here first. Because once you leave this page, if I submit it, it's going to go back to the individual dates, which maybe that's helpful for you, maybe it's not. But if I want to see them by grading period again, look what happens. It basically blows them away. They're not really blown away. They're actually still associated with it, but it's making. I'm not really sure why it's like this, to be honest. I wish that it would leave the date that the whole module was set to, but it hasn't done that. So what you're going to do instead is leave this space and go back over to Full Grade Center. Sorry, you can't leave it there. You have to just go here, Full Grade Center, and Manage Column Organization. And this is how you can see at a glance, yes, all of the things that I want to be due on April 6th are really due then. And all the things I wanted to be due on May 6th are due then. And then these aren't set yet. So that can help you a little bit. All right. So that's basically the first part of this. I can also talk a little bit here, and I will right now, about categories. Categories are a lot like grading periods, but instead of being like a folder that you put something in, you can think of more like tags that you might want to use to sort something in a different way. You can use these to create kind of assignment types, like say major papers or exams or quizzes or something. And then you can use that to create different kind of snapshot columns, which I'll show you in a bit, by having those categories associated with the grade columns. You can certainly use this for weighted grades, as it says up here. And the way you get to it is Full Grade Center, Manage Categories. And when you go in there, there are actually some categories already set. And then you can use these or create new ones of your own. And then you can double check them with Manage Column Organization. So let me go and show you this. I'm going to show you this in this particular gradebook. So this is kind of a, I'll submit it here. This is a dummy version of an online class, so it has all this stuff already kind of set up. So if I go to column organization here, I'm sorry, if I go to categories, the other C, this is what I have right now. Some of these are set already, like assignments, blogs, and discussions are automatically in there. Journals are in there automatically. Self and peer and surveys and tests are in there. All the rest of these I created myself, and basically I just clicked Create Category. This looks very similar to what you saw for Create Grading Period. I'll create a dummy category and submit it. And now you can see they actually sort into alphabetical order. And then I can now create some other things here if I wanted to. So going back here now to, if I get out of this, click OK. If I go back to Manage Column Organization at this point, I can move some of these from whatever category that I've already put them into, and I can make them be with something else. So I want to take some of these extra credits, for instance. Again, I can do the same thing I did with, instead of change the grading period, I can change the category, and I can change it to the one I just created, which is dummy. And now that's in there. And if I scroll down, you can see these are like that. And if I submit it, then those would now be associated with that other column. All right, so that's how that works. And I would encourage you to play with these and explore them and see if you can find new ways to use them. But I'll show you a couple ways I use them here in a minute. What I want to shift to now is student displays, and I have 3 here. I have creating snapshot columns for either to display to students or display for myself to see things. And I also have a way to show grading schemas. I can create some custom schemas to show students what I want them to see in their grade column or in a column, say, for a paper or something. And then finally, I want to show you how you force the external total display to show what you want to be shown outside of Blackboard. It won't really do very much with Starfish. I don't know where Starfish gets those grades that it shows, but at least it'll show in the dashboard of Blackboard, so students are seeing it whether they're looking at it there or looking at it in your course. And as I said, I'll talk a little bit about weighting grades, but I won't really go through showing those. So first of all, snapshot columns. Let me show you kind of how this works. I'm going to go, first of all, show you what one of them looks like in this right here. Nope, I'm sorry, this one is the one I want. So I'm going to submit. No, I am wrong. Here, I'm just going to go to a live course that I know is good. This one right here. And I'll show you first the syllabus, actually, for this one. Because what I've done here, I have a weighted, this is a weighted course. And so what I've done here is I have decided what categories are going to be for the different assignments, and then I've also decided how much they're going to be worth. And I'm making the gradebook calculate that. If I come back over here now and I go to the Grade Center, the full Grade Center, and thank God I turned off the names here too. I want to show you here, if I scroll all the way across this, as long as I'm here, you see how these are shaded? This is where the frozen thing is. So everything else, I can see the current grade even as I scroll all the way across all of these many assignments and extra credit assignments for them. Here are my snapshot columns. So basically what I have done for a weighted average, a lot of people don't know what that is. So if students contact me and say, well, why do I have this average? Well, maybe it's because you haven't done the pure response activities, or you haven't done hardly anything on the discussion boards. I'm going to delete this column because it was something I had in here earlier, and I'm going to remake it in a few minutes. It's not going to harm anything. So these are my snapshot columns. I can see, if people haven't turned in drafts, maybe that explains their average. The way I create these, I'll just show one here real quick. Here's my pure response one. I'll show edit column information. I've named it what I want it to be, and I've reminded myself how much it's worth in the gradebook. I'm showing it as a percentage. And then I've selected the columns I want it to show, and I want it to show them, it's going to basically add these up or average these up. And it's either going to average them equally if all of them are the same point value, or if I have different point values for some assignments, then I might use proportionally. And what it's going to do then is average all of them together, but average them kind of weighted. So that's how that works. And I will cancel this for right now. And how you make these, you're going to create an average column. You're going to name it something. This is the one I just blew away. And this is a text column. So I'll say that for it. I'm going to scroll down here. I'm going to leave percentage. And instead of having it go by all grade columns and average everything together, which would be a mess, I'm going to select, I can select by column, or I can select by category. If I select by category, which is what I did here, let's do the homework. So I'm going to grab this and for the homework, and then I'm going to move it over with this arrow. And since all of the homework in this class happens to be weighted equally, I'm just going to leave it alone. But if I had a lot of different point values, I'd do it proportionally. I'm going to calculate it as a running total so that anything they haven't done yet in like an online course, the zeros aren't going to count against them. But I do have to record zeros in my gradebook as the due date hits for different, say, modules, so that it keeps the grade corrected averages with the zeros included. I want to include this center in the grade center calculations. I can do that for this, but I really don't want to show it to the students. So actually, no, I don't want to include this in the grade center calculations for this one. So I'm going to make all of these not, and then I'm going to click submit. And then I'm going to manage column organization. I'm going to move this next to the homework thing so that you can see it together and see that it's doing exactly the same thing. So here's my test column that I just created. Here's my homework. I click submit now. And here we go. And you can see that they match up exactly. So that's how you create this kind of snapshot. And you can create snapshots for your students too if you want to, or you can make it where they can see these and discuss it that way. So the next thing that I want to show you here, let me go back to my PowerPoint, is, well, I've already shown you the snapshot column creation. That's what we just did here. And so what I want to show you next is custom grading schemas. And I use this to show the final adjusted grade in a course. I'll show you how that works. But I also have started doing it for papers. And basically what you do here is you go to create grade schemas in the full grade center. You can add and remove rows in what's there if you want to do that, and change wording in different ways. And then you can access it, as I said, from the full grade center, manage grading schemas. So here's one that I have where I have an idea of how they're doing in the class with this average, but I've hidden it from the students. All I want them to see is, are they doing well in the course, or do they need some improvement? Are they not doing really well in the course? And I don't want to fight with them over every single point. So what I've done is I've created this contract average, and then I've created another column here, which if I edit the column information, it is pulling information from that contract average. But it's using this contract display. Actually, you know what? I think I'm keying this one in, looking at it based on that. But I could easily make it do this. And I'll show you the total thing in a minute. So that's one thing that I've got that I'm doing. But if you look over here a little bit, I have some papers that they've done. And I've got, instead of giving them an A, B, or C on the papers themselves, this is a portfolio class, so they're going to be working on this till the end of the course. So I've got kind of an interim rubric that I'm using that says satisfactory, and by that I mean I think it's going to get an A or a B if they don't do anything else to it. Not yet, which means it's a passing paper, but it's not really great yet. It's just kind of in the C or D range. And then I have conference required if it's not even up to passing yet at this early stage in the course, then I'll put conference required, and we'll talk about what they need to do to fix or revise this paper to make it be fitting the assignment better. And if I look at this, let me go here, rhetorical. I want to edit the column information so you can see it. My primary display for this one is a rubric that I'm calling Revision 1 rubric. One thing I'll tell you that I wasn't aware of, if you put a secondary display on here, you can see it in the gradebook, students can't. I didn't know that. And you can see I've actually got a couple of different rubrics that I'm using with different things in them. I'm going to cancel this for right now. I'm going to go to Manage Grading Schemas and show you how you set some of these up. And I have the Revision 1 rubric that we just saw, and I can edit it and show you how I did it. So basically I gave it a name, and then I changed the wording here from A, B, C, or D, whatever it had, to satisfactory, not yet, and conference required. And I decided the grade ranges, which are pretty much what I just told you. And then I've got, for people who have not even turned anything in at all, I've added the 0 there, so I can distinguish between people who need to see me because I've seen their paper and people who haven't even turned it in yet. So that's how that works. And to work with this, basically all you're doing is you can delete rows if you want to. You can certainly add rows and insert them with these different things, and then add your points and get it the way that you want it again. Another thing I can do here that I have in another course is I have a, at the end of courses, I have the current grade that they, with the percentage that they can see, but then I also add a final adjusted grade, and I have some extra credit points that I'm looking at that I may adjust the grade up a little or down a little bit based on their performance. And so I add this at the end of the course. I'm going to edit the column information so you can see what I've done. And I've made it, instead of the A+ thing that's already in the gradebook, I've created one that's just what we report at the college, A through E, and I add an F to it so that they can tell that an E is actually an F too. I make it a 100-point grade, and I'm going to key this grade in. As their grade becomes final, I key it into this column so they can see it. I'm not including it in the Grade Center calculations, but I do want to show this one to students, and so I do it that way. And I believe, let me look in the grading schema here real quick. I have only a couple in this old class. Letter plus is the one that starts as letter in the course, and then I basically just copied this one from it. I'm editing it, and you can see that what I've got here is A through E or F, and then I've also created a space for I, because occasionally I have incompletes, and I want to show in the gradebook for that student that that's where they are right now. So I basically make this one 1 through 60, and then I make this the 0, and then it's going to display as an I if they have an incomplete in the course. So looking back here now, the only other thing I had to show is this thing about the external total. As you've probably noticed, certainly in Starfish, it may not be showing an accurate grade, and again, I really wish that I knew where that number is coming from so I can make it not be that number. But at least in the Blackboard dashboard where students are seeing things, I want to make their grade reflect what they really have. And in a weighted average course, there might be a lot of points, and they might have done a lot of points worth of work, but if they didn't do all of their papers, it really, that average is not going to be, or what they're seeing as a ratio is not going to be accurate. So basically what I'm doing for this, let me show you this in this course. So I'm logged in, I'm in this course as a student, and what I did basically was I took this, the one with the green check mark, I used to just zero it out, but then I found that if I added column information, I can actually change the display to contract with the grading schema, but I can also, so instead of using all grade columns, I can select columns and categories. And what I did was I created the contract column, which I kind of key in, and then I can basically force this total column to reflect that information. I am calculating it as a running total. I'm not including it in the Grade Center calculations, but I am showing it to students. And what you can see here is that this total is the same as that. If I wanted, I don't think I can make it do it from an average, but I can make it do it from a total. So that's how I work that. And you can see this particular one on the other side. This is the same course. This is my grade in the course, because apparently I haven't done anything in there as a student, amazingly. So let me see. I think this is all that I've got. I can talk a little bit about weighting grades. Basically, what I'd say is if you want to use weighted grades, decide on your grade breakdown first and create the categories, like I kind of showed you with the syllabus that I showed you earlier, and decide how much they're going to be. And then you create a weighted column, and you set it up by categories, and you use the percentages from the syllabus. And then you, I have no idea what that line means. But one thing that will tell you is if you're doing weighted grades, you do have to enter zeros after the end of each kind of module or grading period, so that the average stays good. Because if someone does all the module 1 work and they have a 99 at the end of it, and then they let 3 modules go by where they haven't done any work, if you don't put the zeros in, they will still have a 99 and think they're doing fine, when in reality they're at that point probably failing the course already with all the extra zeros from the other assignments. So let me go here to this course, and this was a weighted average course also, and I'll show you the current grade. Edit column information. This is how this was set up. I created it as a percentage, is what I want to see here in this one, and then I basically chose my categories and moved them over with this and told it how many percent I want it to be worth. A lot of the mastery homework in this course, they were worth different point values, so I made that one be proportional. Within that 10%, it's averaging there. My drafts were also proportional, and actually I think I made them all proportional, but if they're the same point value, it really doesn't matter. But I did all of these in here. The total weights go to 100%. I'm calculating it as a running total. I am including it in the grade center calculations, and I'm showing the column to the students. And that's how I created this weighted course. And so what it's doing is averaging all of their stuff for me. And then there's their final adjusted grade. So with all of that said, thank you very much for your kind attention again. If you're listening to this again, obviously, as I said, I can't take questions, but I appreciate your time, and let me know if you have questions by emailing me. And thanks very much.